with the Coalesce podcast. My name's Grant.
I'm Meg.
And we're going to dive in. We started last time, and if you didn't catch episode 1, go ahead and go back. That's just us getting started and building out the Coalesce project, really not doing anything to it. But we did get this into a Git repo. It's up GitHub and Teletech-samples. And this thing is Coalesce podcast-trivia. So that's where you go if you want to follow along, kind of see the commits and all that. You can go and check that out. So we're going to go ahead and build out some trivia things. And so the idea behind Coalesce is that we want to build the data model and kind of the services that we're going to need, and then we're going to build the front end. So we're going to start working on that data model. So I guess we're going to need like a trivia, some kind of a trivia class. We're going to use Entity Framework, which is what we use here in C#.NET land, using SQL Server database. And then we'll build up, I guess, a bunch of answers. And so we have each trivia question will have many answers. And let's maybe look at that way. Does that sound reasonable, Meg? What do you think?
Yeah, sounds good. So okay. I think first thing we're going to do is we're going to make some entity models, which entity models are kind of going to be used by both Coalesce and Entity Framework. So if you're familiar with Entity Framework, you probably know what I'm talking about. But if you're not familiar, then I guess you should keep watching. So we wanted to make.
So what's that widget there? That one just comes out of the box, right? So you don't necessarily need it, but maybe leave it right now.
On the last video, we had that when we launched the app, it had that.
Oh, the admin screen, right.
Widget. This is the entity model that's kind of backing that screen. Right. So you can see we've got the name, the category, which is just an enum, and then an invented on day. So
sure. Shows you kind of have
just a little stop model. So we actually are going to probably end up deleting this.
Okay, let's get rid of it. Boom, wipe it out.
Yeah, and then we also want to come over here, remove it from our DB set. But I'm actually going to leave it there because then I can do Control-D when we add new.
You just copy that line for our new models.
Copy it.
Right now, we're going to have to roll our migrations back, right?
Yeah, we will have to roll our migrations back. Well, we don't have to. If we run a new migration, it'll just
wipe it out. But
you might as well because it will be ugly.
Yeah,
we haven't deployed this anywhere, so better.
But we can't do that because in order to roll the migrations back, you actually have to be able to compile your data project.
Yeah. So
that's a little bit of a trick there, but we'll cover that when we get there. So okay, we're going to add a new item. I guess we could have added a class. So there we get a class right here.
And what do we want to make? Want to make trivia first, or what's the first
question? I don't know. Just going to call question or call them question and answer.
Question. Do we need a game to hold this?
Oh, that sounds complicated.
Okay.
Let's just do questions and answers for right now. We can always add that. And like they say, the two hardest things in computer science are cache invalidation, naming things, and off by one errors.
Yep. So let's make both of these public. Oops.
Okay. Yeah. So you're changing those from internal to public. These are regular old classes. We're not doing anything really special to them.
And then I'm going to come over here and say, I'm going to set up my TDB.
So here we are in our AppDB context. So that's awesome. So there's answers. There's we'll call them questions and answers. And if you don't change the order of those, I'm going to like be twitching and stuff because I was like the parents above the other ones. But there we go. Okay. So now we have our question and our answer. We haven't set up anything else yet, but okay, great. Let's jump in there. So let's get our question. So first thing we're going to need is just regular old Entity Framework stuff. We need some kind of an ID.
Yep.
So
you want to do int, string?
Well, so let's talk about when you use each one, right? Yeah. So I think like you would use int when you're not going to expose it really that much externally. I mean, what's your thought?
I would agree. If you're going to be doing ints, ints are really easy to enumerate, so you just want to be careful when you do that because people can very easily enumerate over your data.
And in case if you don't have all your security exactly right, which you want to have your security right, but by using like a GUID or something, it really makes it nice because it's not security, but it at least makes it so that somebody isn't probably going to guess the next thing in the sequence, right?
Yeah.
So using GUIDs is not an excuse for security. It's not an alternative, but it is a way to make sure that you're not going to miss something. Let's go ahead and use a GUID for these. I think it makes it a little more interesting.
We can totally do
it's pretty straightforward to do. So let's try.
So GUIDs can't be stored directly, but we can do a string and then we can generate it as a GUID.
Great. So we just put the little annotation on there. And this is just, you're going to enable question ID. This is just the Entity Framework way of doing things. And to do generates, look at that. If you just use your IntelliSense, or actually this is probably CoPilot. We are using GitHub CoPilot, which is pretty nice. I mean, literally most of the time you can just type a bracket above that and it'll come up with the whole thing, which makes it.
I don't know if I have CoPilot on this. I think this is
right now. Now that is a string, and we're hitting a nullability flag because nullability is turned on by default
Yes.
in the Coalesce project. And so what's your recommendation as far as how we should handle it? So we could put a required attribute, we could set it equal to null bang, we could put it in a constructor, like
Yeah,
what do we want to do?
so I maybe have I think there's a lot of opinions on how to do
There
this.
totally are. And this is a weird one because it's going to be assigned by the database.
Yeah, it
And you
is.
are actually going to create an object that has a null value there,
Yeah.
but
So
it's not optional. This is a weird case where nullability in my mind really breaks
it does,
in C#.
yeah,
It
because
just
you
doesn't
can't
work.
really put required here either, because if you wanted to new up a question, you want our attribute here that generates it, the database will generate your ID for you. If you new up a question, you have a required keyword, you have to set that ID,
Right.
which we
Yep.
don't want to
We
do.
don't do that.
So honestly, the
I think
best
this is
option
an null bang option,
is,
isn't it?
yeah,
Yeah,
this
because
is the
really,
best option.
because if it's required, we're gonna have to specify it whenever we create it, which we don't want to specify it. And if it's in the constructor, we still have to specify it, but really, we don't want to specify. We want it to be null, but it's only null until we save it to the database. Then for the rest of its life, it's going to have that value.
Exactly.
And so we're just okay to realize that this kind of startup cost that we're paying of
Yeah.
having it not be right.
The
Okay.
other thing I'd do here is I'd actually make this an init, if I can spell it right.
Yeah, because it's only ever going to be loaded by the database. You
Yeah.
can't.
Actually,
set
you
it
might
manually.
even be able to get rid of this. I'm actually not entirely sure if you can do this, but you might be able to.
Yeah,
do
we'll
this.
try it sometime. Like,
Yeah.
Well, maybe not now, but yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Maybe I'll
Let's leave it as an
experiment.
Awesome.
At least a knit, at the very least.
So let's just make this really simple. Let's start out with some simple, like text. Like this is great. Just do that.
So this one I wouldn't do null bang on, because we probably want this to always be set question
Okay.
text.
Great.
And this is probably something that we want to set when you actually new up this class. The other thing you can do too, now this is maybe where people might start disagreeing with me, is you can double up on these attributes. So you can have that.
But they do different things, right?
Kind of. So the required keyword requires it in C# when you instantiate your.
Right. So you're gonna have to put the curly braces and then say text equals.
Yep.
Because we have a parameterless constructor, you
Yeah.
have to specify it in your initializer.
Yeah, and then it will actually also tell Entity Framework that it's required. So this will do both the things.
Okay.
Now, the required attribute only tells Entity Framework.
Gotcha.
The reason I do both of them is because when it comes down to navigation properties, which we'll probably get to in a second, you can only use one of these. And I like having the required attribute just so that it's easier, in my opinion, to read.
So read it all the way down through. So right now this is redundant,
It is redundant.
but it makes the code easier to read. Like
Yeah.
easy
So-
to read code. Nice.
That's just my opinion. You really don't actually need this here.
Okay. Great. Good to know. Let's see. So this is really all we need for right now. Let's go over and build our answer out.
Yeah.
And it's going to have a very similar kind of pattern to it.
Let's just copy this guy. That way I don't have to retype it.
Oh yeah, nice.
And then public. There we go.
Boom. And just know, oh man, get up Copilot. I think it's worth what it was, like $10 a month.
I know.
I feel like a shameless
I actually
plug.
don't think I have Copilot on.
You don't? Oh, this is just giving it to you, huh?
Yeah, I think this is IntelliSense. Copilot's even better. I
Okay.
don't know where you check for that.
Well, you just put a comment down there and see if it throws a whole bunch of text in there for you to
Sure, let's see.
press enter. And yeah, see, yeah,
Make
this is definitely Copilot.
a function that loops through and. Well, that's spelled quite a little bit wrong. See, I don't know.
Yeah, see, I think this is, this, oh yeah, there
Yeah,
you go.
okay,
You
it
do
is.
have, oh, there's Copilot, yeah.
I keep turning it on and off, so I never know if it's on or off.
I think in general, like, it helps. Most of the time it makes it 3 times better, but some
It
of the
does.
time it makes it 1/10 as fast because it introduces errors that
Yeah.
are hard to find.
Sometimes you'll hit tab and then you won't read it and you'll be.
And it's like, oh, and it's a little error in like this block that you could have written perfectly the first time, but
Exactly.
it of course screwed a little thing up. But in general, I think it's a really good help.
I agree. So something cool here, just a quick little key command.
Yeah.
All this stuff up here is not used.
Yep.
Just do Control RG and then that will
Ooh.
get rid of it all. Alrighty.
Okay, so now we need some kind of a tag, probably the same thing like text, right?
Probably.
Public required string text, yeah. Okay, we're gonna do the null, we're gonna do the required thing and then put the parameter on there just to make it consistent.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
now, this is probably all we need. Like, we could deal with some other fields like an ordering. We could like put a number like,
We
what,
probably want so
oh, which one's right?
yeah, we probably
The
want
right answer. Yes, that's good.
because
so-
these answers can be wrong since we're gonna have multiple answers.
Yeah, and this is kind of a weird one. Like, you think about, well, where do you put that? Like, do you put a bool here that's either right or wrong, or do you put the correct answer up on
The question.
the question,
Yeah.
right? So you could have like a parent-child thing
Yeah.
to the right question. So, I don't know. How do we want to build this thing?
The benefit of doing it with the parent-child relationship is you can enforce
That they have to have one and
they
only
have to
one.
have one and only
Like,
one.
let's go for that. Yeah, right. Because otherwise you can have 2 or 3 right answers,
Yeah.
which may be true. I mean, in certain things,
So you could do that.
right, you could do that.
But we're not doing multiple.
Right, when I bought, yeah. So let's do this. Let's put a right answer up.
Great.
Up in the end of print. So let's go ahead and put the correct. So in the question, we're going to specify what the right answer is.
So this is where the navigation properties come in, and
That would be nice.
stuff. So we'll say public answer.
So we just specify the other object, and then there's
Correct.
yeah.
Sorry.
Good.
And then right above it, we're gonna link up the foreign key. So we're gonna say
So
public.
it's a string because we're using a GUID. And correct answer ID. Boom.
Now this, we want this to be required. Actually, sorry, I probably should have left that there. So we do have to null bang this because now C# is saying that we aren't setting this up correctly.
Right, but the thing is that when I go to set this up, I may opt to set the correct answer to an answer as opposed to setting the ID.
Yeah.
Again, it feels like a place where there's just a
No,
mismatch
no.
in nullability. This doesn't work
Right.
really well because databases have this nullability all over the place. So
And this is why you
Yeah.
can't put required here, because you might not have this ID yet,
Right.
because it might not have been generated by the database yet.
absolutely.
And you might just link here. Now, this technically is nullable because it's not guaranteed that it's loaded in when you pull from the
Well,
database.
but can we even have it's required? So how do we do that if we haven't? So we have kind of a chicken and egg problem. Like,
It
how
is.
do we deal with the chicken and egg?
So this is a case where you definitely can run into nullability like errors. You just have to. It's been like this, I feel like, in Entity Framework for a while, and the required keyword made it better, but this is still worse.
It's similar because really we have to create the question, and then you could then create answers,
Yeah.
or you could kind of create it all at once.
Yeah, as soon as you hit the database save, this required keyword, or sorry, this required attribute will throw back an error saying, hey, you didn't set this, it's required, but you
But
won't
it's
know
not gonna
until you
save.
hit that save. So that's where it
But
gets,
how do I save it? But in order to create an answer, I have to have the parent.
yeah, so the way that this works is, you can set either one of these. So you can create your question,
Right.
and then you can create your answer. And then if your answer has an ID associated with it, let's say you're pulling from the database,
Right.
you can set either the correct answer ID, or you can just set the correct answer navigation property, assuming you've got the ID, right?
Gotcha. So we can set it as a variable.
If you don't have the ID, you can set the nav property,
So now,
and Entity Framework will do that linking for you on save. But if you don't set either of these, this right here, this required attribute will
Yeah, it's
throw
gonna
that error
block it.
back and say, hey, we can't save
Yeah.
if we don't have one of these set, but you
Now-
always have to have one set.
but this is going to cause a problem for our admin pages, right? So when we try to do an admin page, we're not actually going to be able to make a question.
No, this should work because of the way we set this up, because this is not required
Okay.
and it's allowed to be null. So it's just saying C# won't catch it for you, but the onsave will catch it.
Right, but when I try to save in the admin page, because I'll have to save the item before I
Yes.
can go to make child
Coalesce
items.
will check this required attribute for you.
Right, but that means that in the admin pages, when I go to make my question,
Mhm.
it won't save. And therefore, I'm not going to be able to make my child entities.
I think it will save.
So
We can check that.
we'll have to see.
Well,
Let's-
it won't save, you're right, because yeah, we do need to go make this first.
Yeah, so
Oh,
this is kind of an interesting problem, right? So we may have to introduce another property, like, does this have a valid answer? And maybe
Yeah.
make some other way to check it.
I totally see what you're saying now.
Yeah, so this may actually need to be a nullable value.
And if people aren't seeing what we're saying yet, it's because this is gonna have a question
Right,
mark.
so let's add that.
Yeah.
Let's add it, because we didn't really
This
put
is
in.
the missing step here.
Yeah, so here so this needs a parent, effectively, right?
Yeah,
So there's our question ID, and then we have,
and we do want this to be.
yes, they have to have one, because you have to have that, because that's the most important. You can't have just an answer floating out there with no question. Although I guess in the world we have a lot of those.
And now
And the reason there's a question mark after a question on line 12 is because that navigation property may or may not be loaded,
Yeah.
depending on how you do your includes
Yeah.
coming off of your DB set.
And Coalesce will try and be helpful, and it will actually try and preload a lot of your navigation properties for you, which you can turn this off, but by default it's on.
It loads one layer down.
Yeah,
So if we
layer
say,
down.
give it, load the answer, load the question, it's gonna load all your answers by default. You can override that if you want
But
to.
it's still technically nullable because it isn't guaranteed, especially if you
Right.
turn that off.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah,
This is really the
this is
C#
where-
side, not the
Yeah.
LS side, yeah.
this is where that problem comes in now. So what do we do about this? Because we need a question to make an answer, but we need an answer to make a question.
Right, yeah, so we have a problem. So we have to make one of them knowable.
Yep.
Just to be able to get things started. Now, we could leave it the other way.
Mhm.
And then you could create it all at once.
Mhm.
But you have to do that in code. You can't kind of create one, then create the other.
Yeah.
We could do it, but that makes for a little more complicated API potentially. Again, we're kind of sacrificing one thing or another. There's
Yeah.
probably a lot of different ways to do this.
It'd be hard to do this right now without writing some custom UIs for it.
Right,
Yeah.
right. You'd have to kind of be able to have a UI where you wrote the question and then you'd add multiple answers and then you'd send it all back at one time.
Yeah, you do
And it seems
kind of
you-
bulk save and you.
Totally possible. It's just, that's
It's
probably
too-
not what's
it's too
going
much
there.
for this tutorial. That's
Yeah,
a lot of
on
code to
listen.
get there.
On podcast number 2, let's make it a little simpler.
Yeah.
Let's just go ahead and make it knowable
Yep, I agree.
and make that a knowable string. And then at some point, maybe we can even put in the option to say, hey, there's a problem with this, and maybe return a bool or something like that, and say, hey, is there a right answer? But we can also see it.
And this is one of those things where it's like you build the simplest thing first, and then you just go back and iterate on
Right,
it.
well, iterate, because Coalesce makes it super fast just to change your model.
Yeah.
You don't have to go, if I change this, I don't have to go change all my APIs and do
Yeah.
that. It's gonna build.
Yeah, it's just not worth digging all the way into this just to get this one thing to work when you can just come back to it. Like,
Right. So now we have this correct answer, but we also need probably be a helper method to do a navigation property, get all the answers right.
Yep.
Okay, so let's go ahead and add that. So the answers collection.
yes, let's go ahead and do.
It's a good thing you leave the same amount of spaces that I leave because
I know,
it's just really
I think it
nuts.
would bug you if one of us
Oh, yeah, it'd be horrible.
formatted slightly different.
Yeah, our formatting preferences are nearly the same.
Looks
I think
about,
tab, well, I think you got it right.
except I like the syntax.
Oh, nice.
I don't know if you
That's nice. That's good. We're good. It looks like JavaScript for TypeScript.
I know,
So,
I didn't like it at first, but now I kind of like
It's
it.
cool.
And it even has the spread operator. Okay,
Okay, I think
think
we're
that's-
close. Well, we have emptied the DB context already. Was that done?
yep, they're right here.
Yep, they're right there.
I think we just have to run a migration and then, or do you want to revert this migration? You want to run it and then we'll do it?
Well, yeah, let's roll it back. Yeah.
Let's go do that.
So we have another, I like to keep those migrations really nice and clean. And even when I do like commits, every time before I do my final commit, I'll roll back so that whenever I do a commit, I only have one migration for all the stuff I'm doing.
Yeah,
Because it just makes it so much cleaner.
it's much easier to do it now.
And then people can't see all the mistakes that I made in my data model, like the 12 different times I had to change things.
Okay, so you might have to help me through this. 'Cause I have.
Yeah, so you're gonna CD into start.data.
Oh, yeah. And then .NET EF,
.NET EF migration, .NET EF database update. Oh, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. That's wrong. Yeah, it's 0, I think is what you do there. Database update 0.
to just totally get rid
And
of.
I think it goes back to the
Right.
first one. Yeah, so I think so that'll roll back the existing database. Now, if this doesn't work, we're just gonna go delete the database and call it good.
Uh-oh.
Nope.
See, the only thing that I'm worried about is that we only have one migration, so I don't know.
Yeah, that's the usually, sometimes I'll make an initial migration, it's blank, but
Yeah,
what's the, was thrown while attempting to create an instance.
I don't know why it's trying to look at this when we haven't even made a migration for this.
Does it compile? Oh, build succeeded, so it must.
Yeah. Great,
Uh,
context of type, empty. Oh, I wonder because I removed the widget DB set, if it's upset about that.
Could be.
Cause
Well,
I think it's trying to, I do think it's.
Since we blew it away, let's just blow away the database. I don't,
Yeah. I think
this-
the issue is we've only got one migration and this has all the widget stuff and it's getting confused when it tries to go like, because our.
So if you just go into SQL Server Management Studio, wipe out the database,
Yeah, we
or
should,
change it, let's change the name of the database, actually, that's even an easier way to do it.
there you go. So we'll delete
So
that
delete that,
and then come over to app settings.
yeah, and we'll have to change it in a couple of different spots. And so let's name it. Yeah, IntelliTech Trivia, actually, that's not a bad name.
Well,
It just.
we can name it, we can name it,
Coalesce Podcast Trivia or
yeah,
something like
let's
that.
name that.
Great. And now we'll have to change one other spot up there in the top, in the development app DB settings.
So development app DB.
Yeah, right up a little bit in new data
There we
project. Yeah. So this is the one that runs, that is all your migrations run off of. This is kind of the little mock that sits in there. It's a little stub that sets it up.
think that
Plus
matches.
podcast. Okay, great. So you could have either deleted your database, you could have figured out how to roll everything back. We probably should have, if we're gonna roll it back, we should have rolled it back before we made all those migration changes.
Yeah.
But now we should be good. So you can do .NET EF migrations add. And we can just use additional migration, or you could do like trivia question or whatever it is. Oh, and now we
maybe
saw.
we actually did have a problem.
We could have had a problem. We're gonna have to go fix this one way or the other. Okay, this is the beauty of doing a podcast where you just have to get in there and figure things out. So
let's see. It says unable to create DB context of type empty string.
somehow it doesn't know.
It'd be nice if I had more room on the screen, but
That's okay. We'll get it figured out. Did we change anything else? Do you want to run a quick diff? Is there or is the model creating? Is there something wrong down there? That's all general. It just deletes
That's
the.
fine. I wonder if
Just removes that part.
it's like a navigation property issue. So let's just go look at these really quick with this error present. So
Determine the relationship presented by the navigation property answer dot question. So that it's missing that parent.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
Do we need to put a foreign key on this?
I wonder. No, I don't know. It shouldn't need a foreign key if it's named the same thing.
Yeah, the naming should pick it up. Every once in a while, we run into a situation where it doesn't.
I would expect this one to be more upset than
Yeah, right. These ones are the ones where it's not the name of the object itself. And you'll configure the rest. So it's should represent a navigation property answer that question of type question. So let's go back and take a look and see if let's just put a foreign key on it and see if that solves the problem.
See.
Okay, let's see what happens. So there's the foreign key.
Would be surprised if it fixed it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's not the problem. So let's remove that.
Okay, so we may there is the option to phone a friend here, but let's see.
Friend just yet.
Yeah, well, let's work on this for a few more minutes and see what happens.
We've still got ChatGPT and CoPilot that maybe can help us out.
Yeah, the exception. Yeah, this is weird because that relationship seems like it's just normal. Manually configure the relationship or ignore the property by putting not mapped attribute. Unity typical to ignore. Okay, yeah, that's just the typical stuff. So, does the string is required? Oh, do we need to put a required on? That requires there. Okay, so we don't need that. That's good. Okay, there's no weird things there.
All right, when in doubt, what I like to do is I like to copy this and ask AI. Because sometimes it's just faster than me at reading this error message. If I can find my mouse. And I will let you know what it says.
The other thing we could do is we could just remove that and see if it gives us the same error.
We could, yeah.
And just see what happens, and whether that's
it's like a one-to-many issue here, but it's not able to figure out the direction, I think.
I wonder if it's actually the problem of the other one. If we took out the answer, I wonder if that actually is.
It might be because now it actually might get confused that we have this.
Yeah, that right there is the problem. It's actually not the other thing. It's that because we have an ambiguous relationship. Yeah, see, so let's remove that. Let's remove that. Oh, no, yeah, well,
I think
you can delete it since
we can come back to here and we can specify this on the on-model grading.
No, I think you can actually can we specify it on the collection? Because the collection, I think, is the problem child. Yeah, inverse property, there it is.
Let's see if that does it.
What did we do?
What did we break here? Oh, this is what we broke. How did that happen?
That's weird.
It'll be really obvious how it happened in the video.
Yeah, right. Going back over this, you're gonna be able to see all the things.
There we go. Okay, just needed an inverse property. So yeah, it was just confused that we had.
Yep.
This has a link to answer, but answer has a link to questions, and then we're saying that there's this one-to-one link, but then there's also
because that could have been a list of correct answers.
Yeah.
Too. I mean, if there was, or it could have been anyway, there's some weirdness in there.
It's a little weird because we kind of have two things going on here.
Right. So we just had to add the inverse property and we're set. And now the migration should match. So I always go look at my migrations. So let's just take a quick look just to make sure they're right.
Make sure nothing weird.
Yep, make sure there's nothing weird.
It's always funny how when you're trying to keep things simple, they just get.
Right, they just come, well, and I'm fine, this is what you do on a podcast, like, you just go through all the stuff and you have to find the answers, and
Okay, so let's take a look at this. So here's our.
there's our answers table, our questions table, and we build indexes, and we add the foreign keys. Right, that's really what I would have expected. Awesome. So we go ahead, okay, now we could run this, and we created, but Coalesce wouldn't do anything because we haven't run our .NET Coalesce command. So what I like to do here is I actually like to open up two different windows. In Visual Studio is how, well, you can do it here too. And then you can use like start.web or cd start.web. Oh yeah, there you go.
What do we call this? Coalesce.
There we go. There you go. .NET Coalesce, perfect. And this uses the Coalesce config file to tell it how to do all the things. So we'll eventually kind of look at some of those things. So you can see here, build all this stuff. Now, if you run .NET Coalesce again, you're going to see nothing. And this is one of the ways to know whether you changed anything that is actually going to impact the backend. So here you see it didn't actually do anything. So you see started generation complete, nothing in between. That means that you didn't change anything that was going to cause Coalesce to have to change anything in its backend. Okay, and we'll dive into those files that Coalesce makes at some other podcast. But for right now, we're just going to assume that they're all working and everything's good.
Yes.
So let's go ahead and run it, and we should be able to see some admin screens and make ourselves some trivia questions, which should be kind of fun. With our now new knowable answer.
All that cool stuff.
So
let's just get rid of some of this.
All right. Well, it takes a second to get started. It's going to run the migrations. All that stuff is built into the Coalesce template.
It has started. It's just on my other screen.
Okay, we'll move it back to the. Yeah, we really need two screens for this thing. So, okay, great. There it is. It looks like you did before, except we have the admin pages, well, which are exactly the same. So when we click on it, we're now going to see there's questions and answers. So let's look at let's build a question. We should be able to create. Here's our little thing.
It's a good trivia question.
Oh, I don't know.
What's the state bird of Washington?
Oh yeah, something that no one knows. We should probably guess and see like who gets the closest.
I don't actually know what it is. Oh, and then, well, before we do that, we have to go make the answer, right? And
yeah, well, yeah. So there's a little bit of weirdness here, right? Yeah. So we can click on answers, right?
So there's two ways to get here, right? You can go back to the admin pages and you can click on answers here, or if you click answers here, you'll see there's a filter here. So there's
it automatically filters
on your question.
On the question.
And then when you create,
it'll
automatically link your question.
Great. So now I know that it's going to be the one that I want.
All right. Now what is the state bird?
Let's just put some things. How about a
say seagull?
It could be a seagull. A seagull. I wish it was seagull down. That's good. What's that other one? It's a hawk and it's an osprey.
Oh, an osprey, yeah.
Like that's like a seahawk, I think, technically. And now I'm going to have to maybe ask Siri, hey Siri, what is the state bird of Washington? Need luck?
She won't tell you.
Oh, no, it gave me for any luck instead. Hey Siri, what is the state bird of Washington?
I doubt it's either of the ones.
The willow goldfinch.
I would guess that. That was actually my next guess.
I'm sure it was.
That came up because I put a space and I put backslash. So there's actually some automatic validation.
Yes, there's some, and you see not at the top level, but also at the little individual field level. And that's going to come all, once we show you how to kind of build some UIs, it's going to come all in the box.
Is this it?
A willow goldfinch? I don't know, it's already gone. That sounds
okay. It doesn't need to be that correct.
Yeah, just mostly correct. Okay, we have some answers in there.
Yep, there we go.
Great, there's 3 answers. And now we can go back to our question. And what's cool is that when we edit this, it's going to give us a drop down. And the drop down is not right.
The drop down is not right.
And it's not right for a couple of reasons. So we should even go fix this.
Yeah, this is bad.
So there's by default. So let's go back and look at our model.
Yeah.
Now by default, if you have the word name, it's going to replace that and automatically show you. Otherwise, it's going to show you the key. What we can do is we can tell the text field that this is actually the name field that it should use.
Now, do I remember exactly how to do that?
Yeah, but we can look at the docs.
We can. That's what we're going
to do. So let's go look at the docs and remember what that is. There's a Coalesce field that was going to tell us that for this particular object, use this as a name field whenever we automatically populate drop-down lists.
Name of field by which list. This looks correct. Oh shoot, this is knockout. We don't want that.
We don't want to knock out ones. We're gonna get rid of those docs actually, so.
Good.
Display name, is that it? How big can set view the display name attribute?
This is probably it.
Scroll up a little bit, that's the range. Oh, display. Oh yeah, these are not the ones that are the.
I think it is display name though. That sounds correct. Yeah. Although it's not super descriptive, but I do think it is display name. Let's just try it really quick.
Let's try it. It's pretty easy.
Okay. And then I believe we need to, maybe.
So we have to do the same thing to the question too.
Display name may not be it. This might be that it lets you.
Yeah, I don't think it's that. I think there's another one that's going to be this.
Actually.
It's when you search, this is the thing it's going to search by.
This guy.
Try search. Is it under search? Searchable property type. Just click on that and see what we get. Oh, these are the fields it uses for search.
Yep.
There it's searching all the name fields. And you can concatenate things together and make new things that'll show on the screen. So we could go back and look at another. I'll take a look too.
I'm wondering too if I can just look at the C select to see what it is using. There might be a hint on here.
Yeah, let me pop in here and take a quick look as well. Docs.
We'll fast forward to this part.
Yeah, trim a little bit. Hey, this is just what you get.
I know it's something.
Modeling.
I just don't use it often.
Here's the models, here's the attributes. Should be one of those attributes. I wonder if somehow this got missed.
I mean, it could be the display name attribute, although it's not looking like it when I use it.
Declared attribute range. Kind of odd. Not seeing what I thought would be there. List text is the attribute. When a textual representation of an object needs to be displayed in the UI, this attribute controls which property. So it's under the attribute section. It's not in that other one. So if you went down to attributes and model customization, the list text property is what you're looking for.
Okay, so let's go find it.
So on the left-hand side, scroll down, there's a list text.
This guy.
So we can probably improve this doc just a little bit. And have some kind of a almost, because there's really no way to get into this. You got kind of go through the list on the left-hand side.
Yeah.
So yeah, but there we go.
Great, there we go.
So the name, this talks about how the name property automatically happens. We should probably set this for the question as well.
Yes, good point.
Because that way we just kind of filter for this question.
We don't actually have the questions being listed anywhere yet, but if they ever do get listed, we might as well have it.
Right.
Okay, we're gonna run, I'm pretty sure you need to do this.
Yeah, we just need to run Coalesce one more time, I believe. Although that so in Coalesce, some things actually lead to generated code, which this does, and other things, like some of the right, and some of the other things don't, because it runs just dynamically using reflection as the app runs. So there's kind of a combination of generated code and reflection that happens kind of behind the scenes there. So okay, let's see what happens.
Usually
it's going there. Yep.
Okay, now if we go to question. And we can edit this.
We click there. Oh, look at this. It's beautiful.
Do you remember what it was?
I believe it's the little goldfish.
There we go. So now we have our question and with our correct answer, which that's fine. And our answer right here.
Right there.
Okay. What do you want to do next?
Awesome.
Some UI, some more backend.
Yeah, we could do a little bit of UI, although we may be wrapping this one up.
That's true. We're at 36 minutes.
We're at 36 minutes. We don't want these things to go on forever. So I think right now what we have is we've kind of put in place a couple of objects with relationships between them. And we built out that, make sure the admin pages kind of work. And we'll next time we'll make a cool little, maybe what we want to do is just make a page that will display a random question and ask you for the answer. And then we'll tell you whether you got it right.
Yeah, I think that sounds good.
Okay, cool. Well, until next time. We'll see you later.
Thank you.